Hearing none, I'll look for a motion to approve.
Move to approve as presented.
Motion by Shane,
Second?
second by Lori. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Passed unanimous. So right now, we have like a minute, so let's take a couple of minute break, and we'll come to our, what is it, 10 o'clock timed item. So let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back to the, actually, yeah, the 10 a.m. White Pine Water Power Pump Storage Project. So take a quick break, and then we'll have you guys up, okay, Luigi? All right.
Pretty simple.
Yeah, we should, Mike.
Every now and
We're gonna go back into our meeting, and we are now on page 4, item E. It's the 10 o'clock timed item. It's the White Pine Water Power Pump Storage Project. Item 1 is discussion update from the White Pine Water Power and Pump Storage Project. Luigi Resta, President.
Mr. Chairman, make my disclosure that my parents' property has no ties to this project. That's shown many times on the mapping in previous meetings. I'd also like to read a statement off of whitepinepumpstorage.com under resources. And facts and information, as it states, there are no agreements with any private property owners either on the Steptoe Valley side or the Duck Creek side of the project to place any construction-related facilities or permanent project facilities on their land. Therefore, I will be commenting on this item.
Okay. Luigi, you're up whenever you get your items passed out. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chairman and Commission. Thank you for the time. Good to be here again, and happy to give you an update. We like to do this on a periodic basis, and as we've talked about with the White Pine Pump Storage Project, it's a slow and steady process, and it's really, really small incremental steps that we try to make on a daily basis. And for the record, Luigi Resta, CEO of R Plus Energies and President of R Plus Hydro, the developers behind the White Pine Pump Storage Project. So thank you again for the time. The intention of this is to give you an update. I think you guys are aware of the project, so I don't have to go over any of the project kind of details specifically, and I'll just go right into the update. So the last update was we were working on the BLM 2920 for the exploration work for doing the geotech drilling on the site, which really helps drive the kind of design elements of the project. The lower reservoir has been moved down to below below the High Line rail, so that was something that the engineers did a while back, and I think that we, at the public open house, we shared that information as well. So the work that's going now is we submitted the 2920 to BLM. We did all the cultural environmental studies to do the 3 boreholes, 1 on the top of the mountain on the Duck Creek side and 2 on the Steptoe side. Went through the cultural study, went through the process. A final decision and record was granted on October 5th, so we're happy that we got that permit approval to go out and start doing the work. There is a whole bunch of sage grouse areas, and we do the access roads do go through winter sage grouse habitat, and we went to the set, we secured some credits for the project to do this work. We did submit to the SEC, the Sagebrush Ecosystem, for a waiver, and ultimately that was denied. So we were given a very short window of time to do the work out there. It basically, by October 31st, we have to be complete. And really the waiver was asking for driving on the existing roads to get through, but it is in the winter habitat. So pleased to announce that the borehole number 2, which is the one part way up the mountain, you guys are probably seeing the lights at night. And that, again, that's a result of us trying to accelerate the process. So they're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week right now to get this work done. The update that we got this morning driving in was that since they mobilized on Tuesday, they're down to 744 feet, which is great. That's really good news. They're successfully getting through the rock. They're drilling on a 24-hour basis. They're using what we expected, about 20,000 gallons of water a day for doing that geotech work. And it looks like everything's going really well. They did, as part of this work, we have subcontracted to Rec Brothers. They're doing the civil work, the road maintenance on the BLM roads to get in and out of the site, and then the actual footprint area where the work is happening as well. And then another local civil group is going to help with the test pit. So we're happy that they're using local people here, which is something that we always talk about, is that the project should employ as much local as possible. So the BLM permit was granted. They're focusing on borehole number 1, or on number 2. Borehole number 1, we had a little bit of kind of miscommunication, but that borehole number 1 would be on BLM property in between the High Line rail and the rail that's not used to the west. We're working on the access to that. We were granted the right-of-way or the permit from BLM, and the railroad has said that that's kind of their property and we can't go across it right now. We're questioning that because the service road, as we're determining it, or the road that is on the west side of the High Line rail goes in and out of BLM property. We view that we have the permit to go on it. We would cross at the designated rail crossings, and the railroad's not quite feeling that same thing, so we have to work with the city, and that's something that's ongoing. On the next page, you can see that there's a picture of the actual drill rig that's happening up there. It is, there's multiple disciplines up there, so we have the drillers that are drilling. We have GEI, which are the hydrologists doing the actual studies of the rock work, the geologists, and they're here. I think in total, right now in Ely, we have about 20 or 25 people that are, because we're working 2 shifts that are kind of ongoing. Per the slide that we just shared, the field studies for the FERC license. So the steps that we've taken, one is doing the geotech work. They'll drill the holes, then they'll go back and they'll review all the core samples. That will drive the engineering for the project itself. In addition to that, we have completed all the field studies for the FERC license. Those are being compiled now, and we anticipate that we'll have a draft FERC license with the addendums ready to be submitted to FERC by December. That will be, that's a very extensive document, will be shared, it will become a public document. But our goal is to be able to submit that draft license in December. Once FERC finally accepts that, they take 2 years to review that document. So, from submission to ultimate approval, if they approve it, the minimum is going to be another 24 to 30 months kind of time frame, just from a time perspective. In the meantime, while that happens, we will continue on the 2920, which is the right-of-way, which would be the land use agreement with BLM, so that the project site actually has an ability to build itself there. And that's a SF-299 right-of-way, which then grants the permission to build on BLM property. We submitted our original application last year. We will be updating it per the new design engineering that we're discovering, and like moving the lower reservoir in between the 2 rails is a key part of that. HDR, as part of the work for the FERC application, they also conducted a economic impact report. And in one of the last meetings, I shared with you the Zion's economic impact report that we had commissioned independently as well to look at the White Pine project. I shared that with the commission. I didn't make it publicly available. It was in draft form. Today it's in final form, and I have shared it. I've also put copies on the back bench for the public. So I apologize for not sharing that with the public last time, but it was in an early stage. So the HDR economic impact analysis came up with the same conclusion that the Zions Bank draft did, which is that the basic punchline is that once the project is built, the new tax contribution to the county will be about $10 million annually for the life, for the 100 years that we expect that the project to live. So The Zion's report has a depreciation schedule, so it starts out a little higher, you can see how it goes down, it's in one of those schedules in the Zion's report, but I think year one is 13 million, and then it kind of tapers down to about 10 million, so.
Luigi, I have
Yes.
a question. Now, you guys are applying for a,
First license?
no,
Tax abatement?
the tax abatements.
We will,
So some of this is deferred. We will not receive anything until after 20 years.
that's not accurate, sorry,
Okay, so,
Commissioner, I
so,
apologize.
no, tell me, if that's, I mean, we will be
It's a reduced
receiving
amount.
some, but it's a reduced amount.
That is included in the Zion's
Okay.
calculation. And the way, I don't know all the specifics of the governor's energy tax abatement, but it's run by the governor, it has to be approved. It's a 3-year tax abatement on the sales tax of equipment. So it's only 3 years, and our construction project will
So
be
it
for
used to
5 or
be-
6 years.
Used to be more.
So
Okay.
on
Longer
page-
year.
Page 9.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
I
So,
got
so there's a sales tax abatement on the equipment for a 3-year period during construction. That's one item as part of the governor's energy. And then the next is the 10-year abatement for the personal property and real property that the project would pay. That is taken into account in the Zion's report, which still
Okay.
says that because of the size of the project, 5 years of construction, we'll be paying sales tax in 5 or 6 years on 2 or 3 years of those. There's really specific requirements that you pay above prevailing wage. I think it's 150% of prevailing wages that go into the county. So there's a whole bunch of really strict requirements and obligations for a project to qualify. But again, all of that, those economic input numbers are included in that Zion's.
I
And you can see that
appreciate
it still pays.
Yeah,
13 million
because I've
year
had
one.
questions from the public, so
Yeah.
I didn't have the answer, so thank you.
They're in that report, and I made it
Awesome.
publicly available, so.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
No problem. And that's provided that the tax abatement, the governor's energy policy is still available in 2025 or 6 when we start construction. I mean, there's no way to tell what's gonna be available in 25 or 26 at this point. But we did include it for the benefit of the public and for us to answer the questions that you've asked in the past.
Appreciate it.
As we discussed at our public luncheon that we had a while ago, we did launch a White Pine Pump Storage website, which is included in this PowerPoint presentation. It is whitepinepumpstorage.com is the website. It kind of describes the project and should be available for everybody. We held that open house in July 27th, 29th, and I think 80 to 100 people kind of attended, which was pretty exciting. The next phase of work that we're doing on, or the next application that we have with BLM is to do a seismic refraction, which we're hoping we can do during the same sage-grouse period in October. Basically, the seismic refraction is the geotech boring, they drill holes in, it's a 4-inch core sample of the rock. The seismic refraction, it's like this lunar rover kind of a truck that drives, it's a one-way path that goes through and does sound waves down into the ground, and it can penetrate about 400 feet. There is a fault line that goes through that area, whether you knew it or not, but there is a fault. It's a 35,000-year fault that is in between the two rails, so the high line and the low rail, there's an existing fault, 35,000-year fault. So with a seismic refraction, what we're looking for is where those fault fissures happen and the separations, and so that will then dictate the engineering design for that lower reservoir. So that's something that is with BLM right now, and that process to do the seismic refraction, it's this lunar rover machine that drives along, puts down a dome, looks for the information below ground, and then keeps moving, is about a 5-day process. They can't do it at the same time that the geotech drilling is happening, because it would pick up the vibratory drilling even if it's a mile away. So we're dealing with a little bit of timing issue there. As I mentioned, the FERC draft license application will be ready in December. BLM right-of-way is continuing to go. We have worked with the county on a road maintenance agreement, and we have that ready to sign anytime. But as a result of kind of our timing and a few other issues, we're not doing any work on the Duck Creek side this year, so that the drilling and borehole exploration up on borehole 3 or the top is not gonna happen. And as a result, we're not gonna be affecting Duck Creek Road, but we have an agreement that in the event that we do affect any county roads, the project would be responsible for that. We're continuing our landowner and public outreach, and then developing a long-term sage-grouse plan, I think is something that's key for the project, for the community, and for the state. So that's work that we're all undertaking. That's my update.
I have one question. You say you worked an agreement on the road with the BLM, right?
Yes.
What right does the railroad have stopping you from going across that road? What do they, I don't know.
We don't know either.
Do they have can they let me cross and not let you cross? Do they have that right?
Well, to be fair to the railroad, that when Crux, our contractor that's doing the drilling, they reached out to the railroad and said, we plan to, or we would intend to cross the abandoned railroad over by the Gondor substation, because it was a much straighter route to get to the drill hole bore site. That abandoned rail, there's not a designated rail crossing there. And so they said, you can't cross there, you have to cross at the designated rail crossing areas. I think that's a fair statement to say. So what we proposed is that we would come in on Industrial Way, which is where the designated rail crossing is. And then once we get, over the west rail, we would turn on the road that's on just to the west side of the Highline Rail, the east rail, and that road goes in and out of the city-owned right-of-way path and the BLM property. So I think from BLM's perspective, we have permission and rights to go on it. But again, the rail sent a note saying we need to know how many cars, what's the activity, is there gonna be disturbance? We have a continuous reclamation or maintenance bond obligation with BLM already to maintain the road. So, so we don't know. It's kind of caught in this political, legal quagmire. I think Gage, our attorney, reached out to the county DA, and you guys said it's not our road, we can't opine on that. And so I don't know that they can limit, they in the city, some participants from using that road versus others. But from BLM's perspective, we have the right of way to access that property.
Even though it's the city's
Well, the road goes
Where it-
in and out of BLM.
BLM, but it's those parts that is the city that is the issue, right?
I don't know.
Okay,
I don't.
I guess it's not ours to fight anyhow.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I can't
It's the
for the life of
city's.
me understand,
And the railroad,
Hammer time. You got a
You say
project
this-
coming in.
just a minute, he goes in and out, and you can cross this road, but you can't cross that road. And it happens every day, all the time, but it seems to me like somebody's throwing a red flag up there saying, wait a minute, I got this, and Jimmy can cross, but Jack can't. I just don't understand.
So we did provide a letter to the railroad, and this came from the railroad, not from the city.
yeah.
We did provide a letter to the railroad yesterday saying that it's approximately 20 vehicles per day. It is on this shared road that is both BLM and city, that we have obligations to maintain the road, and that we are crossing at a designated railroad crossing. So I'm of the same opinion that the contractor should go out and do the work. We have permission to be there. There's no sign that says you can't cross, but we also don't want to
Yeah,
offend people too much.
but I think maybe, Luigi, what the difference is too, is that BLM roads, your bond covers BLM roads, not the cities. Am I correct, Jared? Is that pretty much
That's correct.
same?
But
Isn't that, the entire thing's a BLM road, doesn't that operate within an easement? When it crosses to the city property?
my understanding is it's not been surveyed, and so there's not sections that have a sign that say city property, BLM property, city, because it goes back and forth like this, so, you know, we would maintain the whole road if we go on it.
Sounds to me like it's
Interesting.
time to plow forward and move onto that road.
Yeah, so, we have a limited time, again, because of the sage grouse issue. You know, we have to be completed by October 31st and out of there, and so what we don't want is to lose another year. And I guess with, you know, all considerations taken, we'll proceed. We would, the next city council meeting, I believe, is October 21st, which is next week, which doesn't give us enough time to
Tomorrow.
complete the work by the end of the,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow. I saw on the agenda that it was next Thursday.
I'm going tomorrow.
Forgiveness is a lot easier than permission every time.
Well, I think we've tried to be very transparent with the project. We have made some missteps. You know, we put a man camp on the Duck Creek side. That was a massive failure. You know, I take responsibility, but we're trying to fix those and to be really good partners. So if you get questions about the lights up there on the mountain, they will be gone on October 31st. It's just we're trying to push the schedule.
And so just to be clear, since it's not a county road, we're not involved in this road issue. This is just an update. So we're not gonna wade into that road issue.
Yeah, I'm just venting personal opinions over here.
Same here, I'm just confused.
Well, thank you. And as always, I'm available to answer any questions. And if you want electronic copies of these, I can get them to you too.
It should be fine, thank you.
Anybody got any more questions on
Luigi, may I
Luigi
have
and the
that?
water, pump storage
In the
facility?
back? Okay.
I think that was a nice update, thank you for coming,
Thank you very much.
and continue
Thanks,
to
Luigi.
come
Good to see you.
periodically. Okay, we are now right at 10:30, so we are on time for the item number 4.
Just a couple minutes, Richard, about 10:28.
Okay. Elizabeth?
It wasn't a time frame. He's gonna be right after you. Do you think that's right to call and say we're ahead of schedule, or should we just go right? What do we do?
Yeah, okay, we're good. Okay, thank you.
I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Hello.
Yes, because it only contemplates, now it only contemplates on the west side, so if the Duck Creek portion would have road out of that.
What's that?
I just put the data out. Yes. Yes, I do. You can only use it.
Oh, nice.
So it's not.
All right. He's had a stomach in his mind.
Okay, we're back in and we're on time, we're a couple minutes early, so we're here at the page 4, item F, it's at 10:30 a.m. Trails in White Pine County, it's a discussion update. It's a presentation of the EDA grant received for the Toyobi Trails Institute and a presentation on the next proposed current EDA grant cycle pertaining to dark skies. Kyle Horvath, Marketing Director. Kyle?
Kyle Horvath, Director of Tourism for White Pine County. Yeah, thanks for getting me on the agenda, kind of last minute. I wanted the opportunity to explain kind of some of these projects that have been in the headlines lately. I really want to keep the board in the loop here, the commission in the loop of what we're doing and what's going on. So I know it's been a while. If you're looking for a tourism update in general, I'd be happy to come back and talk numbers and things like that. But today is about grants, and like all of you, I am waiting anxiously for round 18 SNPLMA to be awarded. I'm glad nobody's here holding their breath, turning blue, waiting for that. But there's some really big projects that I know are going to be game changers for the community. But in the meantime, over a year ago, a group started working on an EDA grant proposal which was geared towards workforce development in an industry that can be supported by the private sector. So something that was not government job creation related. And so anytime that you go into any kind of entrepreneurial endeavor, you start looking at what are the needs, you know. And the need across the West right now, not just in Ely, who has a huge backlog of trail projects, not just in the state of Nevada that has a huge backlog of trail projects. You've got communities all over the West that are putting their economic development plan centered around outdoor recreation and motorized trail, non-motorized trail, and winter trail recreation opportunities. So looking at that, calling a lot of the trails, professional trails organizations in the West that I know, there was a great need for trained trail builders. Not people who just, swing hand tools and move dirt, but actual crew leaders. And so that's what we set out to do with this grant. And the idea is that people from the West, and when I say the West, I'm talking about Utah over, because coincidentally, and this is how you know you're on the right path, is there's a college in Colorado that is starting to develop a very similar program, and there is a school in Bentonville, Arkansas, with the support of the Walton Foundation, Walmart money, to also do something on the East Coast. So kind of concurrently, we're all working on this problem and taking our kind of own region to go. So people would come around. The grant is to come up with the economics, the details, the answers. All the questions that I've been getting since the headlines came out, well, what about this and what about that? That's what this grant is going to go ahead and cover. And then once we work out all of those details, then we'll go ahead and apply for the location, the heavy machinery, the things like that to actually open up the doors and start accepting enrollment. And so what we're setting out to do is to put White Pine County Center in the outdoor recreation industry. When you make yourself just a place to come and play and recreate, you're competing with every other mountain town in the West. But when you put yourself centered to educating people to go out and improve their communities, you're putting yourself in a position that is much more important than just a community that has a bunch of really good trails. And so when students come here, they're going to learn how to make non-motorized trails, so that would be hiking, biking, horseback riding. They're going to learn how to do motorized trails, so that's dirt biking, ATV, quads, all the way up to what I would imagine would be full-size roads for trucks and four-wheeling and stuff like that. And it would also include winter trails, so that would be grooming ski runs for ski resorts. It would be grooming cross-country ski trails, fat bike single track, snowmobile trails. And so it's a really broad, diverse program of what we're going for here, so that when you get out of this, not only are you trained in the industry standards of how these things are supposed to be built, but you're going to get also these other ancillary certifications and education components. So that would include heavy machinery operator's license. And so you're going to learn how to use a mini excavator, you're going to learn how to use a dozer, you're going to learn how to use a ski run grooming machine. It's going to involve wilderness first responder, because when you're out there in the woods building trail, if something goes sideways, pretty much you're the person who's going to keep somebody alive until they get to medical response. It's also going to include Sawyer Level A certification, and that's so you would be able to lead a saw crew. And when you get all of those certifications together, pretty much your hireability goes through the roof, above and beyond just being just above and beyond building trail. You could be on a fire crew, you could work for a dirt moving company, you could do a number of things. But essentially you're going to come to White Pine County and you're going to be trained to be a leader in the outdoor recreation trail industry. And so that's what we're trying to do. It is very reassuring that other communities are doing this at the same time. Or excuse me, 2 other places across the country are doing this at the same time, because you know you're going to be on the right track. So right now we are in the process of hiring a contractor to develop and do the research, the economics, the curriculum, all of that stuff, so that we can have a package, so that when the next round of EDA grants comes through, we can submit that, knowing that if they granted us the first time, they're gonna wanna see this project through to its completion. So, this morning, I got a headline from Maryland about this program, so it has made it all the way across the country. It was on Yahoo News, and we've been getting tons of calls from people in the industry, elected officials, Department of Outdoor Recreation for both Utah and Nevada, and then all the trail crews congratulating us for this. So I think this is something that's extremely exciting, again, for positioning. And I know that I've got a few calls from a tour operator and a manufacturer that was like, if this goes through, then this is a place that we would want to move our business to, just because of how you're positioning yourself. So that's my presentation on the trail building, the Toiyabe Trail Building University grant that we received. Is there any questions about that?
Anyone?
Great work, thank you, Pat.
That is
Yeah.
amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, and the cool thing, I mean, they're gonna use our mountains as the classroom, you know, and
Awesome.
because of how cool our land managers are, and because of the space we have,